When we talk about substrates, we're talking about the material that you are applying the paint to. It can be any number of things. I thought I would go through a few with you that I use with my students in my painting classes. The first and cheapest one is craft paper. What? Oil on craft paper? Yep, oil on craft paper. This is good for the first couple of sessions because this is just paper. You can wad it up and throw it away. It's not a precious thing. Once the students can get into their heads that they're not making masterpieces with every single painting, they're learning to paint. This takes a lot of the pressure off. You can still get a painting, but there's not the pressure of having expensive materials that may get ruined or something like that. It also dries super fast. This is one of the drawbacks though. When you paint on paper, the oil binder in your paint is going to leach out and bleed into the paper. Usually most of this will be covered by other areas of paint, but be aware with these porous surfaces like that, that's a danger. Anyway, craft paper is great. You just wrap it around a board or something, tape it on the back, and students are ready to go. Another thing I like to use in the first few weeks is cardboard for the same reason. It's a little stiffer, gives you a better surface to work with, but the principles are the same. It dries super fast, and it's not a precious object. It's not an expensive substrate that you're working on, so you feel a little more freedom to move ahead and mess up if you have to. The most common thing that I like for my students to paint on is canvas boards. It's a cardboard, just like this, but it's a little denser, and it's coated with a primed canvas and then sealed on the back. It's a cheap way to have a canvas texture and experience all the joys and heartaches of painting on canvas. It is primed, so the surface is sealed and the paint will sit there, and it gives you the effect of a fine stretched canvas painting, but at a fraction of the price. So that's another option for you. Something you may not have considered that I really like is hardboard. This is also called masonite. It's just a thin pressed wood fiber board. It's a lot denser, but it's still porous, so you're still going to have the issues of paint kind of leaching into the surface unless you gesso it first. And when you gesso it, you can use gesso, or like I said, with other chemicals, you can use latex house paint, white latex house paint. I like to use white because it helps keep the colors nice and luminous, but you don't have to. You can use yellow. I've even had colors mixed that I would just use as a sealer paint for hardboards. Or you can just go at it, just start painting directly on the board. I've done that too. There's no right or wrong. And then we get to the primo method, which is the stretched canvas. This is what we're all used to seeing. They come in a large variety of shapes and sizes. This is elongated. It has a wooden stretcher frame, and then the canvas is on it, and it's stapled on the back. This is what I prefer instead of having it stapled on the sides or tacked on the sides, because it gives you the option, if you want to paint the sides instead of having to pay to have it framed. This is a 3/4 inch thick stretched canvas. You can also get stretched linen, which is a tighter weave. This is cotton duck canvas, which has more of a tooth to it. But you can get linen, which is a lot smoother and gives you less texture on the surface. You can also use burlap if you want. I've stretched that too. And then we have the larger canvases that are stretched. This is a gallery profile. It's 1.5 inches thick. This is the one I prefer for my work because I can paint the edges instead of framing it, which in a pinch, if you're in a hurry, you don't have time to go get a frame, or you don't have the money to pay for a frame, painting the edges is a good way to go. One thing I'll point out that you may not be aware of is on these stretched canvases that you buy pre-bought, There's little grooves in the corner. You ever notice those little grooves? And they come with these pieces of wood. What are these pieces of wood for? These are canvas stretcher keys. After you finish building a canvas, or if the canvas gets loose and you want to tighten it up some, you just hammer these into the corner and it will separate the stretcher bars ever so slightly and make your canvas taut again. Likewise, if you have a painting and eventually you find in your canvas a wrinkle, or it's got a little saggy area or something like that, there's a quick way to fix it. You just flip it over on the back and spray it with water. The water will tighten up the fibers of the canvas and your wrinkle will go away in front of you. It just takes a couple of minutes. And then once it's dry, it's like it was never there. So that's a good hint for you. You can also build your own canvases, which I would recommend if you're going to paint large scale pieces. And large scale would be anything probably bigger than this. I'm lazy and don't build canvases anymore, so I'm not gonna do a demo on how to build canvases. There's plenty of YouTube videos you can check out if you wanna build your own canvas. I will mention with regard to substrates, consider the finished piece and consider where it's going to go. Are you gonna have to ship this? If you're gonna have to ship it and you have this big ass painting, it's gonna be expensive. I shipped a 3-foot by 4-foot painting a few weeks ago and it was $250 within the continental US. That's just shipping. So be sure whenever you price your stuff, you work in the shipping fee. That's also the reason I tend to work a lot smaller these days. It's just more cost effective. All right, so that's it for substrates.